Hello everyone and welcome into ONIT College Basketball Tuesday. We're taking a look at the Final Four because we have men's and women's teams that have reached Indianapolis and Phoenix. We'll look at the full bracket on how we got here on both sides and then see how the national championship might be decided with these Final Four games to play this weekend. If you enjoy the content, please do like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. That means you get more of us in your feed, and if you love college sports, ONIT is the place to be. We'll start by taking a look at the men's bracket and seeing how our Final Four teams all got here out of their respective regions. We'll start off in the East region. That's where we began in every video before, so why not do it again here? These were the games that were taking place in Washington, D.C. for the regional semifinal and final, and UConn prevails in the East. The 2 seed upsets the 1. They are going to Indianapolis, and they keep dancing here in the Final Four. Crazy ending to that game. Hopefully you saw my reaction video that we posted as a short, but a 35-foot logo 3 from Braylon Mullins to win the game by 1 point after you got the steal on the inbound that you needed. And they didn't even really steal it on the inbound. The ball was almost to midcourt by the time that UConn finally stole it. There were just 5 seconds left. Caravan and Mullins back and forth, and then the shot from the logo to sink the Blue Devils. Crazy stuff from UConn. They're moving on. They get Illinois in the Final Four. Interesting matchup there. We've seen Illinois stifle a lot of teams with their really great defense. Saw it throughout the season in the Big Ten when a number of our ONIT teams matched up with this Fighting Illini squad. The offense just didn't show up because of the way that Illinois can play D. And then when Illinois has nights where they shoot, they just kind of can't miss. So you have to be on your game when it comes to playing this team. And of course, that's why they're in the Final Four, because they are one of the best teams in the country, one of the 4 best at this point in time. So UConn's going to have it firing on all cylinders. I think Terrace Reed Jr. is going to be a huge part of the game plan because he can kind of neutralize that zone defense that Illinois can deploy. Reed Jr. himself was named the East Region's most outstanding player. Huge performance against Duke. Probably the biggest reason why they won the game was just his consistent effort battling against the boozers in the paint for points, rebounds. Ended up with 4 blocks too. He was just a monster. That's why he was the most outstanding player in the whole region, and he was the only member of an ONIT school that made the all-region team in the East. We had Kansas, UCLA, and UConn all appearing for us in this region, but both Kansas and UCLA were eliminated before the Sweet 16, and Reed continued to pour in amazing performances. So he is our only representative on that all-region team there in the East. And so UConn, we talked about the matchup with Illinois. Illinois got there out of the South. They had a very interesting path. They took down Houston, of course, which is a team that eliminated one of our ONIT teams in Texas A&M. I thought that they were going to get Nebraska in this South region, but Nebraska was upset by Iowa, who took out Florida. South region was probably, definitely it is. It's the highest seeded team to come out of a region at only a 3 seed for Illinois, but it was the region with the most chaos for sure. Iowa eliminating Florida in the Sweet 16. Not a lot of people saw that, or in the round of 32, not a lot of people saw that coming. And then Nebraska and Iowa meeting up in the Sweet 16. Nebraska had won and lost against Iowa. They lose to Iowa again in the Sweet 16. Iowa goes to the Elite 8. And that is where they fall to Illinois. Again, Illinois was going to get a team out of the Big Ten. It was a Big Ten ladder showcase, basically, of just moving down the ranks of Big Ten teams. But Illinois beat Houston. Houston was a team that a lot of people thought, as a 2 seed, could maybe come out of this region. Illinois put a stop to that. Nebraska would have had a really great opportunity as the 4 seed in the South to potentially be playing UConn, but again, just slipping up against Iowa here definitely hurt them. We did have Price Sanford get on the all-region team for Nebraska, though, so good job for him. He was the only representative we had in the South region on an all-region team, as we had Nebraska and Texas A&M both in that South region. But Nebraska made it to the Sweet 16. Texas A&M lost in the second round to Houston. And so that's how you have Illinois as a representative there, taking on UConn. Now, if we flip over to the other side of the bracket, head up to the West in the top right, this is a pretty chalk region. by all accounts and scenarios. We had Purdue versus Arizona for a spot in the Final Four. Purdue gave it their all. Braden Smith and Trey Kaufman-Renn both ending up on the West Region all-region team. So congratulations to them. Congrats to Purdue for an awesome run. We talked about them in one of our recap videos. They did a great job to get to this point. They are the Big Ten champions of the Big Ten tournament. Nothing can take that away from them this season. Braden Smith is the all-time NCAA assist record holder. So a lot of great accomplishments this year for Purdue, but just couldn't get past Arizona, which for a long portion of the year was the number one team in the country. So it's not a huge surprise to see that Arizona is representing the West in the Final Four. I think what did surprise a lot of people was Texas's amazing run through this bracket, winning their first 4 game against North Carolina State, then upsetting BYU, upsetting Gonzaga, and then falling in a very close game to Purdue where they had a chance to win that one as well. So Texas, awesome job to them. Tons of credit. Tremont Mark, absolute baller. Guy played his heart out throughout every single game, even got hurt and still tried to carry Texas to that victory over Purdue. And if he hadn't have been hurt, they might have won it. So he ended up on the all-region team in the West as well. Congrats to him. Really proud of that young man. Just a ton of character, a ton of grit, a ton of heart. Definitely one of my favorite players to watch throughout March and here into April so far. And then our last team that was eliminated in this region was Arkansas, which had one of my favorite players that I've talked about multiple times, Darius Acuff Jr. They were taken down by Arizona. I thought Arkansas was a good matchup for Arizona because they both like to just run and score a lot of points. But Arkansas came out in that game so cold, and Arizona did not. They put up 109 on Arkansas, and Arkansas still got to 88 even with how poorly they shot in the first half. So that goes to tell you that Arkansas definitely could have kept up offensively with Arizona. They have that kind of talent. But just, again, the cold shooting to start, you could never start cold against this Arizona team if you were Arkansas. There's other teams that could maybe do it. A team like Illinois with the defense they play, Iowa State, even though they're out of the tournament. Michigan could start cold against Arizona, and I don't think it would be a problem for them. But Arkansas couldn't do it because they weren't going to play the defense needed to stop Arizona. So that is how the Wildcats ended up representing the West and how our ONIT teams in that region got eliminated. And speaking of Arizona, they're playing Michigan, who came out of the Midwest. And as I said, I do think Michigan could start cold against Arizona and still win this game. The defense has been on lock for the Wolverines so far in this tournament, but it's been the offensive efficiency that shocked me the most. I don't know if Michigan can stay this efficient. They've put up more than 90 points in every game they've played in the tournament. Put up 101 against Howard in the first round. Continued on with 95 against St. Louis and Tennessee. Put up 90 on Alabama. So this is an interesting game because Michigan and Arizona, I could see this game ending like 100-98. It could be a really close contest where both teams just score at will. And we'll see if that happens. This is going to be the most interesting test for Michigan so far this year. I know they've played a lot of games. Of course, they played Duke in the regular season, lost that one of their just 3 losses on the year. But this is a game where I think that offense is going to be king of the day. So whoever comes out shooting hot is going to run away with this one potentially, or it could be a case of both teams come out hot and it is just back and forth trading buckets all night long here in this national semifinal. So I'm very interested to see that. In this Midwest region, these games were played in Chicago, the regional semifinal and the final. We had Tennessee versus Michigan in that regional matchup there. Michigan got the job done pretty easily over the Volunteers. A lot of kudos to Tennessee, though. Credible run that they went on as the 6th seed. Knocked out Virginia, knocked out Iowa State. Definitely the Virginia game, was kind of up in the air. Could have gone either way. I think most people thought Iowa State was going to take care of Tennessee and go on to play Michigan, and that just simply did not happen. Tennessee had a great game plan. They executed it well, so they deserve a lot of credit. And they had to beat Miami of Ohio in the first round. I know they were in a first 4 game, but still, that's a team that only lost 1 game all year prior to losing to Tennessee. So Volunteers did a great job, and that's why you see Jacoby Gillespie on the Midwest All-Region team. He was stellar all tournament, absolute baller. I know his stock has risen quite a bit, not only in the card world, but potentially in the NBA draft idea. So This is a kid that played his heart out in the tournament, really kind of willed Tennessee into the next round. So awesome to see him get recognized there. And then we had 3 Michigan players end up on that all-regions team. No surprise there since they are the representatives out of the Midwest. Elliot Cadeau and Roddy Gale both got onto the all-region team, and then Yaxel Lendenborg was named the most outstanding player in the Midwest region. Not a surprise to me. Really, I don't think anybody would have doubted that. He played so well throughout this tournament and has just been the backbone of Michigan. So they'll go into their matchup against Arizona. It's Michigan-Arizona for 1 spot in the national championship, and it is Illinois-UConn for another. So there is a real world where we have UConn versus Michigan in the national championship, and one of our ONIT schools will be cutting down the nets as the 2026 champions of collegiate basketball. So that would be awesome to see. That's obviously who we're pulling for here at ONIT. We would love to see Michigan get past Arizona, UConn get past Illinois, and then it's kind of a toss-up on who wins the national championship there. I know we got a ton of Michigan fans out there. I'm sure they're hoping the Wolverines pull it off. But that is the full bracket breakdown on the men's side, all the all-region players for ONIT. Let's flip over and talk about the women's bracket now, because boy, are we going to have some fun here. We're looking at the women's bracket now, and it is all 4 number 1 seeds in the Final Four, and that's right, they are all ONIT teams. UConn, UCLA, South Carolina, and Texas. All 4 number 1 seeds, all ONIT schools, all were in the Final Four last year. It is a carbon copy of last year's Final Four in terms of teams, but the matchups are a little bit different. Last year, we saw UConn and South Carolina play for the national championship, but this year, we're going to see them play in the Final Four for a spot in the title game, and that's where we'll start here in Fort Worth Regional 1, the top left quadrant. UConn blazing a trail through this region. It was so easy for the undefeated Huskies. There's a reason why they're undefeated this year, and they certainly showed that. Wiped the floor with UTSA, made Syracuse look even worse, held North Carolina to 42, beat Notre Dame by almost 20 points. It was just a cakewalk for the Huskies, and we saw them dominate this all-region team. Sarah Strong, most outstanding player, and all-tournament Region 1 team. Then we had Bianca Quinones and AZ Fudd both make that team as well. So 3 players from UConn getting on the all-region team there, led, of course, by Sarah Strong, who's been leading the Huskies. Quinones has played very well for herself, too. She's really come on strong in the tournament as a alternative scoring option for the Huskies behind Fudd and behind Strong. So she's been really fun to watch, and UConn just making short work, really, of Fort Worth Regional 1. The other team that we saw eliminated here for us was Ohio State. Of course, we talked about them last week. They went down to Notre Dame. Were unable to make the Sweet 16, something that I know Buckeye fans are certainly hoping that they can figure out, because this women's team has all the talent in the world, and they have for the past couple of years. They just haven't been able to get over that hump for whatever reason. So it would have been really fun to see UConn take on Ohio State there in Fort Worth Regional 1. But unfortunately, just did not happen. So that was how UConn got to the Final Four to get to their matchup against South Carolina. And let's take a look at the Sacramento Regional 4, because that is where South Carolina came out of. Got their start by beating Southern, holding them to just 34 points in that first game. Crazy stuff there. And then getting into an ONIT matchup, we had South Carolina take on USC after USC managed to knock off Clemson. South Carolina, again, just much too strong for the West Coast USC there. The Trojans stood no chance in that game as South Carolina put up 101 on them. Then South Carolina goes on and puts up 94 on Oklahoma. It was really only TCU that was able to hold them down at all in this region, held them to just 78 points, which is a far cry from the 103, the 101, and the 94 that they put up. But South Carolina just dominated the fourth quarter against TCU, really pulled away, and has set us up with an insane matchup here. UConn, South Carolina, 2 number 1 seeds, played for the national championship last year. We're going to have Sarah Strong, AZ Fudd, Bianca Quinones, Joyce Edwards, Raven Johnson, all on the same court. It's going to be an absolute fireworks fest there in Phoenix. I know the temperature's starting to heat up in Phoenix. It will be very hot there on the court, because these are some of the best players in the country, if not the best players in the country, all sharing the court together in one game. I have no idea who's going to come out of this game. If history says anything to us, it's going to be UConn. They managed to do it last year. They're still undefeated this year. The Huskies know what it takes to complete a perfect season, and now that they're on the precipice of doing so, I think that they will not be denied here. So they got to get through South Carolina on 4-3. That would set them up in the national championship on Sunday if they win on Friday against South Carolina. Or maybe South Carolina, with all the anger and the frustration of losing last year to UConn, maybe that all boils over and they take the W here from UConn and end that Husky perfect season, which would see them back in the national championship game. I know Don Staley and the rest of the Gamecocks would love to get a national championship under their belt yet again, so we'll see if that can happen for them. But regardless of who comes out on this western side, they're going to be playing two really good teams, or playing one really good team out of these two really good teams remaining, as we take a look here at UCLA coming out of Sacramento Regional 2 in the top right quadrant. Easy path for UCLA to walk. Took care of Cal Baptist, Oklahoma State, Minnesota, and Duke. Not a whole lot of difficulty in any of these games. UCLA certainly did have their struggles, but I don't think that at any point they were really in fear of losing any of these ball games. They just managed to pull away in the second half. I think one of the things that has been instrumental for UCLA in this run is their ability to come back in the second half, come out of the locker room with a fresh mentality, no matter how poorly that they've played to start the game. And we saw that in all four games. UCLA did not start well in any of these games, in my opinion, and they managed to just flip a switch at halftime and come out and dominate their opponents in the second half, which is certainly good. But to beat Texas, they're going to need to put together a complete game. And, you know, UCLA, with the talent that they have plenty of playmakers, they have plenty of scorers, they have plenty of defenders. But for whatever reason, when they matched up against Texas this year, they couldn't get anything done. And I think that's a testament to how good this Texas team is. We saw them in Fort Worth Regional 3 take care of Missouri State, beat Oregon handily, beat Kentucky by 22, and then just walked all over Michigan in that game last night. That was crazy stuff from Texas. And you know what you get from watching Texas, not only do they have elite players like Madison Booker, Rory Harmon, but what they also do is they just beat you in every single facet of the game. This is not a modern basketball team by any stretch of the imagination. And by modern, I mean they're not going out there and hucking up 100 threes a game, but they beat you in every single way. They out-hustle you. They out-rebound you. They out-fight you. They outscore you, clearly. They bully you in the paint. Like, this is a team that just works hard for everything. You know, nothing really comes easy for Texas, but they make it look easy, if that makes sense, you know, because they work really hard to get to their spots. They fight through screens on the defensive end. They set hard screens and then roll and set up other players with opportunities, you know, coming off that roll on a slip and things like that. So they work really hard for each one of their baskets, and it doesn't necessarily show up, you know, that they're hard baskets, but they make the hard stuff look easy, and I think that's one of the reasons why Texas has dominated every team that they play, and it's part of the reason why they beat UCLA in the regular season. So this rematch here will be very interesting because UCLA turned the ball over more than they have in any other game in that game, and that's a testament to Texas's tenacity. So UCLA is going to have to find a way not only to have a better start than they've had in any of their previous games, but to figure out how to outwork Texas, because I think that is kind of the staple of the Longhorns this year, is they will not be outworked. So if Texas can pull off that victory against UCLA for the second time this year, could set up a very interesting matchup. They might play South Carolina in what would be a rematch for the third time this season. Texas beat South Carolina out of conference in a non-conference SEC game. I don't know how that works, but anyway, they beat South Carolina in that game. South Carolina beat them in conference play. So Texas and South Carolina have seen each other multiple times this year. It wouldn't be anything new for either of them. So would be a very interesting matchup. And then seeing Texas versus UConn would also be a super interesting matchup, because I think Texas can go toe-to-toe with UConn when it comes to how they play the game. So like I said, Texas won't be outworked by anybody, and that's kind of been UConn's staple as well for many a year. So seeing those two styles clash on the court would be super interesting. But UCLA also definitely can beat Texas. I mean, the game that they played earlier this season, it was decently close. I know UCLA, it wasn't a one-possession game or anything close to that, but UCLA played very poorly, and if they play better, they could easily come out on top of this game. I would love to see UCLA match up with UConn in the national championship. I haven't liked what I've seen from UCLA so far in this tournament, again, in those slow starts in the first half, but I've loved what I've seen from them in the second half. So if they can put a complete game together, I do think that they can challenge UConn, potentially end their perfect season, and I definitely think that they could beat South Carolina, considering they've beaten almost anybody that's been on their schedule this year outside of Texas. So very, very interesting Final Four matchups here. We will have an ONIT school win the national championship on the women's side, which is awesome, and we can't wait for this Final Four to kick off in Phoenix. It's Friday night that the games begin, with the national championship for the women on Sunday. We'll have ONIT schools in the national championship for sure, and we'll have reaction videos after both games here on our YouTube channel. We'll make shorts on Friday night, so make sure you're subscribed and you don't miss those. So that's how both men's and women's brackets look here going into the Final Four. Hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks so much for watching. If you've made it this far and you liked what you saw, please do leave a thumbs up, as it helps us out here at ONIT, and we can bring more of this type of content to you. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't. That way you get more of us in your feed. If you're opening any cards from any of these teams that are left in the NCAA tournament, or any of our teams that have been eliminated, you can go ahead and submit your best pulls to us using the link down below. We'd love to show off your cards and share them here with the YouTube community. We want to see your biggest and best hits, your greatest autographs, your shortest prints. So whatever you want to submit to us, you can do it by using that link, or you can find it down in the description. It's onitathlete.com/highlights. Appreciate you all staying with me so far, and can't wait for the March Madness tournament to wrap up. Hope you have a great weekend. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and we will see you next week to recap everything that happened during the craziness of this NCAA basketball tournament. So have fun and happy ripping.